It's recording right now.
Okay, perfect. Alrighty. Let me full screen this. Okay, guys. Welcome to GDSC's Guide to Prompt Engineering. Over this little lecture that we have planned, we hope to go over sort of what ChatGPT is, how to get the most out of it with some basic prompt engineering techniques, and how you can take advantage of it as a programmer. So my name is Kyle. I'm the tech lead for GDSC. Prompt engineering was a pretty big part of my previous internship. Um, so a lot of that information I'm trying to put into these few slides here. I've also been using it ever since it came out, and just been keeping up with AI news. So hopefully that gives some, I don't know, a little bit of backing behind what I'm gonna say here. Go ahead, Eugene.
So yeah, my name's Eugene. I'm the operations lead of GDSC, and I've been using not GDSC. I've been using ChatGPT ever since it came out. So hopefully that can bring up some credibility behind my name.
Okay, yeah. Angela was going to be here for a little bit to talk on some of her use cases, but I think she's stuck in traffic, so she might join later. We'll see. All right, let's get into it. So, if we want to figure out what prompt engineering is, we want to start with some basic concepts. I'm going to assume you guys have no knowledge of what AI is at all, so we'll just start there. So AI, at its maybe most basic form, it's an algorithm that tries to predict the next value given a set of known values. So an example, really basic AI would be like, what's the next number in the sequence? And you would give it the inputs, the array of numbers 1, 2, 3, and the AI's output should be 4, because that's the next number. And this is the training input, and this is the output you would get. That's just AI at its most basic thing. It's just trying to guess what comes next. And an LLM is a type of AI, but instead of predicting numbers or specific values, it'll predict text, what comes next in a given piece of text. So given a prompt, what is 2 plus? A large language model will complete it with 2 because, well, 2 plus 2, one of the most elementary math equations. That's usually how it'll complete. And it'll say like 2 plus 2 equals 4. And this is what GPT and GPT-2 are, large language models. And this brings us to instruction-tuned LLMs. And this is a special kind of LLM that's been trained to understand and respond to human instructions. It's been fine-tuned on special data. And this is the recent AI breakthrough. These encompass the latest AI tools, which include OpenAI's ChatGPT, Google's Bard, Anthropic's Claude, and GitHub's Copilot. So what makes these so special is that it'll go further than just auto-completing what you say. It'll actually interpret what you say and give you what you want in a more efficient way, in a more human-like way. So given the same prompt, what is 2 plus, it'll actually talk back to you like a human. It seems like you didn't complete your question. If you meant to ask what is 2 plus 2, the answer is 4. And this is the kind of output you would get in a LLM, instruction-tuned LLM like ChatGPT. Now, the prompt here is the text you feed into the LLM. See right here, what is 2 plus? And prompt engineering is what we're going to be focusing on. It's the act of crafting that right prompt to get what you want out of an LLM. And we're going to be going over some of these strategies throughout the next slide here. So crafting a good prompt. So imagine you want someone to do something. So you have to give them a clear and concise instructions with a specific goal in mind. And it's the exact same with LLMs because of the data that they're trained on. So a good prompt would be clear and concise, and it has a clear objective and output format. So here we have an example I want to walk through with you guys and hear a little from what you guys think. So you are researching the nutritional information of bananas. You decide to ask an LLM about it. So write a prompt to ask it with. Now I'm going to start with a bad prompt, and I want you guys to make it better. So here's what I wrote for a bad prompt. Tell me about bananas. And now this is way too vague. It has an unclear objective, and the LLM has no idea what you want. If you give this prompt to the LLM, it's gonna be like, it'll give you all sorts of random stuff. So I want to hear how you guys would make this prompt better. Give it a clear objective. Yeah, just type in the chat or just speak up. I want to hear what you guys think.
Hey, Kyle.
Oh, what's up,
I
Angela?
finally made
In
it.
time.
Yep.
Just in time.
Major
That's great.
traffic jam on my way home. But
Okay,
yeah,
that's
hey
good.
everyone. This is Angela, the marketing lead who was stuck in a major traffic jam, who finally made it.
Hooray.
Hmm
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we were just getting started. We haven't gotten to your part yet.
Okay.
Oh, looks like my webcam died. All right. Okay, I'll just go ahead. So, a good prompt, this is what I came up with. Oh, let me see here. Give me the macronutrients and vitamins in bananas. Yeah, that's great, Hamza. That's actually exactly what I wrote. That's good, that's good. Yeah, you wanted to give it a clear and specific objective so that the LLM knows what you want. So Hamza, you said macronutrients and vitamins, and that's perfectly, that's great. That's good. That'll give you exactly what you want. And that's what I came up with. Provide a detailed nutritional breakdown of a medium-sized banana, including its calorie content, vitamins, and minerals. And both prompts will work, but yeah. And this is another example I came up with. You guys can go through this later in the slides once I send them over. Now, I want to go over a pretty big concept in terms of prompt engineering. It's called context. So context is really big because it has the ability to make or break your prompt. So context is the information that the model has access to at the time of generating your response. So it's comprised of your prompt and whatever text the LLM generates. So going back on this previous part here, what is 2 plus and the AI's response, all of this would be combined together to form the context. This is information that the LLM can reference in its future sort of responses. Let's go back to here. And all LLMs will have a maximum context length, and it varies between models. So ChatGPT, I believe, was recently updated to accept up to 16,000 tokens, which is about 16,000 words. And Bard is around 1,000 tokens, which is close to 1,000 words. Why a token is not equal to a word is kind of goes beyond the scope of this talk, but it's a pretty good generalization. And once you're over that maximum content length, the LLM will forget about newly generated text. It can't, there's too much text for it to reference that it won't be able to actually take it into account. So I want you guys to focus on this really great graph that I put together to sort of visualize what I mean. So the LLM's effectiveness will go up as the context length goes up, but only up to a certain point. the more context you add after that point, the less effective the LLM gets. Where this point is, this perfect little point, will depend on what you're trying to get it to do. So for different situations, might require more context or less context. It really depends. So just aim to have enough context where the LLM knows what you're talking about and what you want, and just cut out the unnecessary stuff so that it doesn't get tripped up on random stuff. All right, that's context. And these are just some general strategies that you can apply to all situations. And more strategies can be applied depending on your use case. And I believe we will get into a little bit here. So Eugene, you want to take it away with assigning roles?
So yeah, thank you, Kyle. So basically assigning roles, which is known as role prompting, basically it can control the style of AI generated text. And you can implement this by prompting the AI to act like a certain role, such as being a food critic or acting like a detective. So can you open up the first example?
Yep, got you.
So basically, you can see how there's two different examples, one with role prompting and one without role prompting. And the one with role prompting says that you are a food critic, right? If you actually scroll down, Kyle, you can see like how, as a result, adding this "you are a critic" role, the AI will go more in detail and a bit more depth within its explanation. So I wanna, can you go down?
Yep.
I want you guys to make this prompt better by using role prompting. Write me a paper about the War of 1812. So what role would you tell the AI to enact to have a decent response or have a good response from this question? Uh, yeah, history professor. I thought of a historian. So that was actually my answer. So basically, yes, you're a historian. Write me a paper about the War of 1812. And historians are known for being really good at history. Now we're gonna go to the second technique. So the second technique is implementing examples. So examples are known as shots and it allows LLM to learn these examples and apply it to their response. And there's actually three types of shot prompting. And the first one is zero shot prompting. Basically, you prompt the model without any examples and ask it to generate the response. However, zero shot prompting does not work all the time, and you should use the following. One shot prompting is basically where you show the AI one example to the model, while few shot prompting is prompting the model with at least two complete examples. And the more examples, the better the output would be.
Nice.
Queues go down. And I want to give you a better example because, addition is something that an LLM can do. If you open up the refined example, everyone can see it. So yeah, so let's say you want to classify a review on an Amazon product, and an example would be, great product. That would mean positive, didn't work well, would be negative. So based on these examples, the LLM would predict it doesn't work well as negative because they have these examples to work off from. And yeah.
Nice. Okay, hold on. There was a quick question by Jones. Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. Let's see here. The graph you provided, scroll down to the context here. Is there a possible calculation for the context to be given? Not too short or not too long? Not really. This is sort of the graph that I've sort of felt out how the LLM actually like performs as you provide more or less context. There's not really a hard calculation to it. So yeah, it's just kind of something you have to feel out and just kind of get more experience with. Not so easily modelable with math. Yep. Hopefully that answers your question. Or does it provide accurate Nice. All right, let me continue. Pitfalls of LLMs. All right.
So yeah,
Eugene?
so basically, LLMs aren't really perfect and there's many weaknesses to them. Obviously, the first one is LLMs without internet access cannot cite sources as do not remember where their training data came from. And as a result, the sources that they generate may seem real, but they're actually fake. And the next one would be hallucinations. So that's when the LLM generates false information from the question that they do not know how to answer. And instead of not stating that they do not know, they would generate a response that sounds confident but is actually incorrect. And this one's yours, Kyle.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. This one might be a little harder to get at first. It's not as intuitive. So LLMs are only as good as the data they're trained on. So if you feed it really garbage data, it's going to spit out really garbage data. And if you feed it really good data, it's going to spit out really good data. So it's the same. It's whatever you feed it is what's going to spit out. So if you feed it like really bad stuff, like really racist, really like just really bad stuff, it's gonna spit out really bad stuff. So if we most LLMs are trained on the internet data that's scraped from the internet, and that is naturally biased towards how a person using the internet will think. So it's just something to think about as as you read the responses that these LLMs generate, that they will naturally be biased. This is no matter how clean your data is. If it's written by a human, it's always going to have some sort of like ulterior, like, I don't know, motive. It's just something to think about, especially with the smaller LLMs, whose data sets are not as clean, not as well thought out. So yeah, that's just what I was trying to hit with bias. Continue, Eugene.
All right, so math is another thing that LLMs have a weakness on. So even though LLMs can tell you the complex physics of outer space, they really fail on simple math equations. An example is the one that's being shown here. So you can see how the answers really different from one another. And make sure you always check your math, because like for this one, right? If you really wanted to use an LLM for math, you would have to give it instruction to fill that response. So yeah, I think Kyle and I tried that and it actually got the answer right if we, like tell the process of how the math should be, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, you can coerce it into the right answer, but it's not 100%. So just always check your math. Never trust it with this kind of stuff. All right, main use cases. Okay, Angela, you want to take it away with these? Oh, Angela, I think you're muted.
All right, Kyle. I think you can hear me now.
Yep.
But so here we have some of the main use cases we can utilize for LLMs. So the first one we have is learning a new concept. So this is one of the most intuitive and most powerful use cases. And I'm pretty sure most of us here are computer science majors. So for example, if you're like stuck on a concept, for example, like you want to learn how to move directories in a Linux terminal, or you want to like learn how React works in terms of web development, you can ask LLM for an explanation. And because it's very chat like, you can like ask almost any kind of topic to the LLM and you're guaranteed an answer. And they can have a very helpful explanation. So, and you can even ask, this is from a personal experience I had with ChatGPT, but you can ask it to explain it in simple terms if you have trouble understanding it. So, yeah. And the second, take it away, Kyle.
Move to the second one.
Yep, the second use we can have is for coding. For example, if you need help with code, you can like ask it certain coding questions. For example, like here you can ask it how to set up a new project, such as make a step-by-step tutorial for a React JS project, and you can specify like what tools you are using to help you get started. And for next one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So another really great use case for coding is being able to tell it to write an algorithm that does so and so. It has specific outputs, and these are the these inputs, and these are the outputs. So here's a little example that I had. I was doing an OA, and they gave me this question. OA, for those you don't know, is online assessment. It's like the things, the questions that companies send you during interviews. And this was one of the questions. So I thought, I'll run it through ChatGPT and see what it gives me. It gave me pretty decent answer. I couldn't find the example, the exact code that it wrote. I'll add it once I can find it, but it works really well for this. You set up the situation, the example, some example inputs, and what the output should be, and the starter code, so it has somewhere to start with. It's really great for that. And Angela, all right, want to talk about this example here?
Yeah, so you can also like aside from like getting you to explain code or generate code, you can also get to like generate a template for code for like the code or certain algorithms if you get stuck. So for example, here there's a prompt. This is a prompt asking ChatGPT to generate a binary search tree template in C++, and you can see like they've also requested comments, the template to be commented up so they can understand what is being explained in the template. So here you have the template and comments explaining the algorithm. So basically the user can utilize this template and maybe edit it to like fit their needs later on. So this is just like starter code. And can you scroll down, Kyle?
Oh,
And it's also generated some test cases. It's probably way down. It's pretty long, a pretty long example, but it's also generated some test cases that users can use to like test the code once they completed it. So if you're stuck on code, you can like utilize generated codes to get a start, but just be warned that there might be some errors. So you're probably gonna have to like do a ton of editing from the template. Yeah. And another use case that we can use is debugging. So if you're having errors in your code, you can ask ChatGPT what is the error and how to identify it, so how you can correct it.
Yeah,
And
this
I'll
was one of
explain
the
this example.
example. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is one of the problems I was running into a while back. I was writing a script to like interact with the webcam with Python. And I don't want you guys to focus on the script. I mean, it's just kind of code. But what I want you to guys focus on is the prompt here. I set up the correct context here. Python, we're coding in Python. Sometimes I mean, most of the time, ChatGPT or other large LLMs is able to know what language you're coding in, but it's always I found it's always really helpful just to explicitly say what language you're coding in. And simply the error in just one sentence. The played back video has a weird blue filter over it. Some background for what I was running into. When I tried to capture the webcam in OBS, there was like a really weird blue filter over it. And I could not for the life of me figure out why. So I decided to ask ChatGPT, and it was able to understand exactly what I was talking about, some weird wrong format, and it gave me the correct line of code, just some like filter to put over the frame before it gets sent, and it fixed it, which was super great. Saved me hours of debugging. Super nice. And Angela, if you want to move on with some of these examples.
So this is an example of how I used ChatGPT once for debugging. So one time I was coding this project and I was trying to run it in the terminal. So and then all of a sudden, instead of the code running, I got this error pop up. So it said like this template was not found. I was telling ChatGPT I got this error in my code, and I specified the error generated from that I received from the terminal, and I also gave it some of my code to give it greater context. And then ChatGPT basically gave me a step by step, like explaining what the error was and steps to go through to fix it. So basically, as you can like see here, I did not set up a certain folder for like part of my script. And because of that, it could not get the program to run and display properly. So basically, once I set that up, everything was good and working. So also example of how I was saved hours of debugging with this response.
Move on to the next use case.
Yep, our last use case for LLMs is writing. So you can use the LLM to maybe generate or help you answer questions in terms of a job application or maybe edit something you wrote. So for these, why do you want to work here questions? I think Kyle has a good demonstration of how you can use
Oh,
this.
yeah. I use this all the time, actually. When you're applying to jobs, you're often asked the question, why do you want to work here? And like as computer science students who are applying to quote hundreds of internships every season, we don't have time to look into every company that we're applying to. So I found this is a really effective way to utilize these LLMs to generate um, a pretty half decent response. So you are a computer science student. Again, going back on setting up the role that Eugene was talking about earlier and setting up the situation, applying for a software engineering position at a company. Answer the interview question, why do you want to work here? It has an objective, and then you supply it with constraints. So keep your answer to a paragraph and focus on one thing that really resonates you about the company. And you can actually use this prompt and it'll follow those constraints. Honestly, we could just try it right now for a, say, I don't know, Duolingo. This is something that I talked about. And ChatGPT, of course, has been trained on exactly it knows all about all these companies. Well, if they were relatively popular. And it knows. So Duolingo is its mission to make education accessible to everyone, blah, 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 stuff like that. Deeply passionate. So I've been using it personally a lot for that. Oops. Continue presenting. All right,
And you can
Angela.
also, yeah, in terms of
Yeah,
writing,
go
you
ahead.
can also use it to help you edit maybe something you wrote. For example, if you're like applying to a job and you have to write a cover letter, I've actually used it to help edit a cover letter I've already written. So I can specify I have a paragraph in my cover letter for a software engineering position at a company. And then I like copy over the paragraph. So edit this paragraph to make it sound more detailed and concise. And then it will give me an edited version of the paragraph. And you can
Yep, yep.
also use it to create essay outlines if you want like help or like to like spend less time in the planning out your essay. So, for example, like here you can specify you're a college student to write a 5-page essay outline about a certain topic, and it will likely give you the same thing. So, and you can also use it to edit essays as essay paragraphs as well, not just for cover letters, but also, yeah, just a brief disclaimer. You do not want to use LLMs to make essay because it can write in a very because LLMs like ChatGPT write in a very specific style that is very AI. So, and it can be hot, you can detect, it can be very easily detected with tools, although in the future it might be harder to detect, but still don't do it. Yeah. GDSC core team does not condone you cheating with LLMs. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. Okay, so you have your techniques and you know what you wanted to ask the LLM. So now let's go over some ways to model more complex data, stuff that isn't so intuitive to actually translate to text. So let's start with tables. Given this very difficult multivariable calculus problem, I was very stuck on this for quite a while, guys. and I wanted to ask the LLM about this problem. But how am I able to represent this table to the LLM? It has no, well, most LLMs don't have an idea of what pictures are. So a way we can solve this is something called Markdown. Specifically very specific feature in Markdown called Markdown tables. But Markdown is a language. It's a markup language that can be used to add formatting to plain text documents. If you've worked with GitHub repositories, I'm sure some of you guys may have run into readme.md. Well, that's a Markdown file, and it has special syntax to format that text in a way that looks good. And we can use a specific feature from that markup language called a table. And these tables are just columns that are separated by the bracket characters. And that's like the little stick thing here. And we can use it to represent these tables. So as you can see, month is one column separated by a bracket, eggs hatched, like this. And if you feed this to the LLM, it will know what you're talking about, because a large part of the training data that it was fed involves markdown related text, because that's how a lot of the internet's data is formatted. Well, not all, a lot of it, but a decent amount where it gets to know what you're talking about. And also complex equations. So LLMs are really great at complex math. I'm talking about like equations that aren't easily representable in just plain text. So stuff like this. F of x equals x squared plus y squared over 100. How are you going to represent that? Well, you can use something called LaTeX, which is a typesetting system used for representing mathematical equations in text. This is I wouldn't call it a language. It's like markup. It's like a typesetting format, and it's what like a lot of academic papers are written in. You'll notice that like a lot of academic papers have like the same sort of style and font. Well, this is what they're written in, LaTeX. And we can use some of those features to actually represent some of our data. It's very easy to learn. You can just, you don't even need to know it. You can just describe the equation to the LLM if you don't know, and it'll like write this equation in LaTeX, and it'll spit it out. Like you can type in words, f of x equals x squared plus y squared, and it'll give it to you. So here's a little example. This is how you would format this equation in LaTeX. It has some weird like symbols and stuff, but it's really not too hard to learn. And yeah, you would use this whenever you want to represent these kind of equations, because it's quite ironic how LLMs are able to do these complex equations, but they can't do math. So yeah, just keep that in mind. See here. There we go. Hidden features. Yeah. I'll go over a little bit of what these hidden features are. In most instruction-tuned LLMs made by mega corporations, so we're talking Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, there are some hidden settings and features you can add in your prompt to get just a little bit more out of it, push the prompts in the right direction to get what you want. So for OpenAI's ChatGPTs, we have this special setting called temperature. It influences the creativity of the prompt and can be set within the prompt, actually. This is something really cool that Professor Banafa showed me. He's a professor at this school, really cool guy. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? You can do this? So yeah, apparently you can. Write a paragraph about penguins, and it'll give you a paragraph about penguins. And if you want, and you can rewrite it, temperature equals 1. And this actually works. Like, it'll give you a paragraph with the same content, but with different words. And I believe temperature is a setting in most LLMs. but it's usually hidden behind the API. So it's really nice that you can do this with inside of the prompt itself. Really cool. And it's the same thing with Google's Bard. There's like extra parameters you can pass in, like using a CLI. Like you can do -a dash answers to specify the number of answers. I actually didn't even know you could do this before. While I was writing this presentation, I was looking around. I was like, wow, what the heck? So yeah, you can even set the temperature, how many words, how many characters you want in your output with -s. You can even change the language and the category. Yeah, just really, you can get really deep into customizing your prompts. And here's a few examples for some of these prompts. So these will give very different things, even though they have the same prompt. So tell me something I don't know. Size is 50, temperature is 0.1, and it's factual. So it's going to be like very short, one sentence, like fact. And this is in contrast to a size of 5,000 and temperature of 1, something fun. So it's going to give you like maybe an essay about something cool, like why giraffes have long necks or something. I don't know. And here's the source of where I found these parameters. You can look into this more. It goes into more detail. But yeah, you guys can look through that after we send over the slides. Go. Extra thoughts. All right. So this is like a sort of a slide that I put together. These things don't really have anywhere to go, so I just put them on one slide. Here we go. Resources. So a few extra resources you guys can reference here. GitHub's Copilot. This is a really great tool. I use this all the time. It's very powerful, super fast, works with all coding languages, and gives you what you want. What this does, it will autocomplete text for you inside of your IDE. It works flawlessly with VS Code and has a great support for a bunch of IDEs. And the biggest point I want to drive here is that it's free. As long as you have an EDU email, or so all of us should have a Horizon email, we can get this for free. And it's just super great. I totally recommend this. If sleep was my #1 productivity hack, GitHub Copilot is #2. So get this, super great. And some further learning you guys can dive into is these two courses here. These are both free. This first one here, we were using as sort of a source for some of our previous slides. This goes into a lot of more in-depth into prompt engineering, exactly why these things work. If you guys are interested, you guys can check that out. This is also another course talking about prompt engineering. This is the course that my previous internship made me do. It has some interactive examples, talks more about what LLMs are, how these engineering techniques work. And it's made in collaboration with OpenAI, so they kind of know what they're talking about. And as for grammar, having perfect grammar isn't super important. Most LLMs can account for it since most of them are trained on the internet, and internet usually has really bad grammar. So it'll be able to account for it. You don't have to worry too much about that. And privacy. Okay, privacy is a really big thing here. The mega corporations you are using, the LLMs that they allow you to use for free are not actually free. They are saving and reading everything you submit and everything the LLM generates. So do not upload or talk about any personal or sensitive information with these models. The reason they save and read everything is so that they can evaluate with a real human to see if the model did good or did bad in this particular situation. So just talk to the LLM as if someone else was going to read it. Yeah, just something to keep in mind. All right, yeah, and that's our talk. If our little closing remark here, we like to always have one for all of our presentations. Get GitHub Copilot. It's free. It's great. If you use AI, that means you're cool. Yeah, get it. And join the CSU East Bay GDSC Discord if you guys aren't already in it. All right, nice. And we'll open the floor to questions. Yeah,
I think
of course.
we have to explain the project that you can use with LLMs.
Oh, yeah, good point.
All right, so can I
Let
share the
me
screen?
switch the sharing the screen to Eugene and show us what you got. Let me get you the Discord link really fast.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
So, okay, so this project was a small project explaining what we did today. And what I want to basically what this program is basically translating natural language to SQL. And SQL is basically a relational database used to store and manipulate data. And the database that we're dealing with is a GM dataset. So you can see here, these are the information that is inside it. I will be giving the code, so don't worry. Let me get into the important parts, like what I applied from the slides. So the first thing I applied is, the markdown tables. Each column is explained, the data type, the description of the header, if it can have null or not, if it can have a default variable or not. So yeah. All right. So the next thing is the main function, and I'm going to be going off from this graph here. So basically, the first thing we do is ask or give the LLM we give the element instruction, and instruction is basically clearly telling the AI what to do before processing your response. And the instruction here give the column of my table within the SQLite database, and then I'll output the markdown table I showed earlier. Respond to the question all through an SQL query, because sometimes Bard, or yeah, the LLM we're using is Bard, by the way. Sometimes Bard can output like a description or explanation, and we do not want that. We just want the query only. And so we use few shot prompting, and basically I gave example questions and example answers. And basically another thing is context. So context is providing relevant background to ensure that the model understands the task or query. So because the AI doesn't really understand what we're trying to achieve, or they don't have access to outside of this program other than responding to us through prompting. Next, we basically formulate the whole prompt. So this whole format is basically this whole thing. But you also notice that there is no role prompting. So it's not really this is not really a standardized format. It's something to start off from. So you're free to move around the sections or move the sections as you please. So we give the query to Bard, and then we connect it to the database and we execute it here. And we print the output. So basically the question I gave Bard was, recommend me some leg day exercises, and Bard answered with, select app from table where body part is quadriceps, hamstrings, glutes, or calves. Those are all leg related activities or leg day related activities. So obviously it would result in everything with, activities for using the legs essentially. And you can use this database for anything, or you can use this, like you can make your own database and use you can use it for like, a game or whatnot, but I just used it for a gym. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions regarding this whole program?
No
All right.
questions? Alrighty. Also, guys, one more quick announcement I
So
want to make.
can I say something really quickly that
Oh,
I
yeah, go ahead.
feel like I have to say? you know, your professors, your instructors may not want you to use ChatGPT for your code assignments and may consider it as a breach of student conduct. So I think that you need to, my advice to you would be, you need to explicitly address that with your professors as to whether or not that's allowed. In addition to that, you know, there's been a lot of famous cases, one with a lawyer, for example, I put him in the chat, where the judge basically penalized, as part of a court case, they generated with ChatGPT with a bunch of false court cases that they quoted. And so this lawyer is no longer practicing. They're just simply doing research for other people. There's a Purdue article that talks about the accuracy of coding being somewhere around 52%. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're just depending on a system to spit some things out for you, you're not going to learn. And in addition to that, you could be in trouble. How someone would prove that, that's a different issue. But I think that you need to be able to code on your own. Yeah, I guess that's what I'll say.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Professor. I was writing these slides in sort of a way to it's sort of like a companion to help you on your personal projects in case you really get stuck, or if you just really don't know what to do. The LLMs are a really great way to turn to if you really just don't know, if you want some guidance, because I don't always have
You know, just in an explorative sense, we all don't know where once, let's say, accuracy improves in various cases, like let's say Purdue is right in its coding analysis, then, you know, eventually maybe computer scientists will be replaced with prompt engineers. But until then, I think there's a slippery slope and there's ethics involved. I think that you need to, my advice would be very upfront and ask your professor whether it is or is not acceptable. And I do get, like, nobody writes latex anymore, even though you're suggesting to do it, which is kind of funny, right? So, you know, tools evolve and they became the new practice. I think you've all seen Minority Report, the movie, where he's programming by moving his hands. And maybe that's what we're going to get into, right? Eventually, there'll be prompt engineers of sort or grabbing pieces here and there. And the funny thing is, you know, like OpenAI is getting sued left and right. Some of it's copyright and ownership. And I think that's going to come not only in fields like books, but in fields like programming. And so it's going to be really interesting, the future. But I just want to give you a lot of caution. Anyways, I'll stop talking about it.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely know and understand what you're talking about, Professor. There's definitely a lot of this. AI is really a really gray area right now, but while it is, it's a great thing to be playing with. Okay, one more announcement I wanted to make is we're gonna be doing where GDSC is planning a hackathon for the spring semester, and we kind of want to gauge your guys's like interest in it. So we've created a survey that you guys can fill out. I'll link it right now. If you guys have already done it, it's great. You don't have to do it, but we just kind of want to see if you guys are just interested in actually setting one up. And yeah, there's gonna be one more meeting, I believe. Vin is going to set it up the week after next week, talking about the Google Solution Challenge. I believe it's the ultimate, it's the big project that all GDSCs have to participate in, and we'll be going over that the week after next week, because next week is Thanksgiving. So yeah. Is there anything else?
I just want to say something positive. I felt I was a little negative there. Very informative presentation. And I thought that was good tips on how to use ChatGPT to kind of get the information you want. And I learned, you know, I did not know the temperature stuff. So good. That's great.
No, yeah, when Professor Panafa showed it to me, I was like, what? I didn't see this anywhere. That was really cool. Yay. It's great to hear, Hamza. All right, you guys have any more questions? If not, I guess that's our meeting. Thank you for joining us, guys, on a Friday evening, and I hope you guys have a great break. Hope to see you guys next week.